If you want to be able to buy the most expensive players and open the best packs in FC25, go to u7buy.com to buy your EA FC 25 coins. It's cheaper than buying FC points and just as reliable. With their already amazing prices, you can get an extra 6% using promo code Inception at checkout. So, with that being said, right, you're going to go to your settings. Competitive should be the default because that's what you play with online, okay? You're going to go to your settings. You can copy this if you want because this is just what I'm using. It's going to be completely up to you, okay? So, the first thing to mention, clearance assistance, directional. Classic is the game choosing for you when it comes to you holding the circle button or the B button, and the game is choosing where it's going to clear the ball. I don't like that. So I use directional. You can have advanced defending or tactical. I personally use tactical. I do not use advanced defending, right? I was going to show some examples of advanced defending, but I personally use tactical. Advanced defending is still pretty good. There is no right option when it comes to which one you should use. I'm just telling you that I personally use tactical defending, okay? Fast block assistance I have on. Honestly, I haven't really looked into this one too much, but it's on. Air balls, loose balls, auto switching move assistance I have on none. Right stick switching is classic. Player relative. I have the right stick set to 3 because I'm kind of compensating for whatever my gameplay is because, you know, switching is cooked when the gameplay is not up to par, but it's what it is, right? Next player switching is on classic. Reaction time modifier I have off, but I don't really look into that too much. And then that's pretty much it, right? So those are the defensive settings that I personally use when it comes to just general stuff. There's not really much else to show. I mean, honestly, visual, you can do player name and indicator with player name on small or default. Default's fine, honestly, because you can see who you're using when you're like clearing the ball and stuff. And I think that's always going to be an important thing to look into. So when I'm teaching you guys these things with defending, I'm teaching you under the notion that it is being used on tactical because that's the one that I personally use. With advanced defending, guys, the shoulder barge technique, if you want to do that on a pretty consistent basis, and it actually works out really well in the online if you actually practice it well, you're actually supposed to tap X, then hold X, right? So the controller's on the screen for you guys over here. You're supposed to do doom, 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 doom. You know what I'm saying? That's what you're supposed to do when you're doing the shoulder barge against them, okay? So that they can kind of like approach the ball a certain way. So that's just for you guys if you guys want to use the advanced defending. But now we're going to go ahead and teach you guys the stuff that I personally look into when it comes to how I want to defend in certain situations, right? So let's talk about each individual thing. The first thing, and the most important thing, right, is your custom tactics. Your custom tactics is going to dictate whether or not you are going to be able to defend every situation or no situation at all, right? So if we go to the RTG account, that might not be an RTG account in the future, to be honest, because it doesn't really do that well on my channel, which is completely fine. This is my team, right? So obviously you guys know I have to use some sentimental cards because it makes the game more fun for me, right? But we did this, but we didn't actually end up doing the review on this account with her. So yeah, this is the RTG account. You could see that I'm using a 4-5-1. Why am I using a 4-5-1? I'm using a 4-5-1 because this team attacks essentially in a 4-3-2-1, but it will defend in a 4-5-1, okay? And the reason why this is so good is because you are covered in the midfield setup with 3 of your forward and backwards players, like your box-to-box sort of players, right? That can attack and defend essentially. And it's very important to have this because you will always have a solid defensive shape, in my opinion. 4-4-2 is a very, very effective tactic in this game, but on a personal level, because I feel like this game is more defensive, right? I always feel like I lack that one extra midfielder personally. And again, it might change depending on different formations and custom tactics that we do try out. But I'm just teaching you guys that right now, having that defensive shape to cover the sides, but then to also cover the middle is really important in my opinion, right? And I think that it's one of the more meta formations in the game, right? Not the top ones, because the top ones are really ratty ones, but 4-5-1 is not only fun for having every single defensive area covered, but also on the attack because it switches off ball, right? So as you guys know from the custom tactics video, what's going on here? I don't know what it said. Oh, it's because nobody's on the team. Is that it? Okay. As you guys seen from the custom tactic video, this is the one that I personally use, right? Because of the things that I personally notice. So I always have a balance, right? In this team, that's without ball, that's with ball. Without ball, with ball. Without ball, with ball, right? So you always have that sort of movement that just is helpful to work with in a general sense. So your tactics is important because whether you're working with 2 center mids, 2 CDMs in the cam, it's all relative when it comes to how your defensive shape is going to be in game, okay? So with all that being said, for the introduction, the important stuff, let's get into the stuff that you should be looking into when it comes to actually defending and how you should actually, press your certain commands and all that kind of stuff. So one of the first clips that I want to show you guys, and it's very important to show this because I thought it was the L trigger, R trigger, is actually the cancel. So in a situation like this is a game that I just played, right? We just played against someone in the higher divisions. Has a crazy team like Vinicius and stuff, right? But he makes a switch here. So you're going to notice what I press with my controller, not at the bottom because I have to actually turn that off because I just finished this video. But look at my controller. I'm pressing L1, R1, LT, RT to cancel. Because if I don't cancel, my Llorente will overcommit into the attacker. But I don't want him to because this guy's going to create space for his Vinicius Jr. right here. His Leão's on the ball. It's going to be a cooked situation for us, right? So we cancel so that we can go back into position. You know what I'm saying? So that is one of the first mechanics I want to show you guys because it's very important to be able to do that because I thought it was just the LTRT, but it's actually all 4 for this year's game. Last year's game, it would be LTRT, but this one, for it to consistently work, it's all 4 of them, okay? It's a good thing that you guys are watching the defensive review because we just played against a guy on the RTG, crazy squad, right? And he's asking, like, what depths is that? He thought it was higher than 70 because of the offside traps that we're doing as well. So one of the main ways of attacking the game is obviously utilizing side positions and then cutting back because that meta is kind of always the same in the new gen version of the game. So this guy, right, he attacks the side position here and he does that same basic play, right, cutting back, right? When you cut back, when you're defending, you have to hold your defensive shape. So this is why I like the 4-5-1 because I have my 3 midfielders in this area. So he cuts back and he's looking for the passes because, again, this is almost like direct passing is still a thing where your attackers are pushing up against your defenders. So you always have to create angles in which he cannot utilize middle space. So once he makes the passes here, he already has too much space to occupy, right? So in this area here, you have to switch to this center mid, block that area there, or switch to your center back earlier and just block out that middle position in advance, right? So we do that by using the center mid. He still has a space to work with. He gets it through, right? But right away, I switch to my center back and get the aggressive challenge off because people are always looking for that same pattern of play where they cut back, pass into the middle, shoot, pass into the middle, shoot. They always go for that exact same play a lot of the times, right? So again, another situation here. He's in the side position, right? Cuts back. The moment he cuts back, you have to look at where his attackers are in the middle of the pitch to avoid that situation as much as possible, right? So what do? I switch to everybody to block out the cutbacks as much as possible. I aggressively use my center back. I press the tackle button with a circle and we get possession of the ball because they're always looking for that pass in the middle. Again, side position play, doesn't overcommit it. He cuts back eventually here. Boom. This is what people are looking for. So the cut back, my 3 midfielders are all in position. This is a good sign for us. He comes over here in this position here. Everyone's positioned properly. I don't have to look at trivelas. He goes into the middle. Boom. He already wants to work with the passing angles from the track back of this player here or these 2 players here. So you have to keep this defensive shape as close as possible so that he does not utilize that space, right? So again, I'm covering the original guy that I think he's going to attack against. He doesn't do that. I keep switching to always block out the same position players. There's too much space here at the bottom side, so I have to occupy that bottom side, and then we make the challenge with Camavinga and get possession of the ball. Again, sided position plays. This guy goes to the side, cuts back again, right? And they always want to go into like this area here. So you have to be very careful of this one, right? So boom, side position, cuts back. What he can do here is he can go for an L1 speed boost in this direction right here. So right away when I'm defending, I'm going to the bottom side with my other player, right? I'm covering that angle at the top because I'm not noticing right away, right? But I'm covering the angle at the top just in case he does a trivela. But I also have my AI player here, right? That I am doing the second man press with. I select with him, with Camavinga, and then I select off of him, and then the second man press is still activated on him to block that area, right? Sided attacking plays all the time. Again, moving into the side position here, he goes here. The moment he gets there, right, that general spot right there, look at what I'm doing with my controller. Boom, 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 touch right there. Look at my controller right away. The way to use manual goalkeeping to avoid him potentially going for a trivela in this angle, because they're all effective in this area here, is I am holding in the right stick and moving to the area that I think he's going to trivela into, right? So bam, I'm already holding it right stick in to my right hand side. If he goes for the trivela, I save this opportunity. This is something that you have to do a lot because a lot of people are going into the side position, cutting it back, getting into this general area here or this general area here with a left-footed player or the right-footed player here, and they will go for the trivela. I do the command quickly. My player is now locked. My goalkeeper is now locked in that area. I can focus on defending the other spots again, right? So keeping my defensive shape with my midfielders and my defenders so that he doesn't have spaces to work with, right? So again, I'm going to let this one play out just to show you guys how I'm trying to block out every angle possible for him to not go into the side positions and for him to not go into the middle position. So I'm overcommitting certain spots just so I can force him to make certain passes. So again, cut back, always cutting back. We overcommit the side position. My center mid Patry is blocking that area. I don't have to overcommit here, switch to my center mid Patry, bam, block out that opportunity in the midfield. So again, keeping that defensive shape is going to be very important because look, people are always doing the same thing. Cut back. Over here in this situation, you already need to be dragging your player upwards if you think the person's not going to do an L1 speed boost. Right here, I'm dragging up, I'm switching, I'm dragging up because this guy could be making the run right here. He makes the extra pass, makes a shot over there, or I just defend it properly, do the tackle button, get possession of it, and then go from there. That cutback meta is always the big thing that people go for, right? So again, side position here, there's more space that he has to work with here. So this is where you will choose to use the offside trap or to not do the offside trap, right? Side positions, always attack in the middle. I'm always trying to block these guys because again, you can see that the attackers are pushed up against the defenders. So you have to keep that defensive shape with your midfielders consistently, right? Pushes upwards. He does a lob pass. My defenders react well to it and we block out the opportunities. And then the last situation here is, again, he does a lob pass here. What does he do? I know he's going to go for the cutback, right? Because him going for the cross here is possible, right? But I have my center backs blocking that general area. Honestly, if he really wanted to in this position right here, he can utilize the L1, R1 double tap cross, and his attacker can get possession of the ball here. But his attacker, if he gets possession of the ball here, is going to be in this area here. So it's not going to be like the craziest angle to work with to shoot, right? So for me, I'm just using the fullback here, block out the middle because this guy wants to go for the middle play to either go for the trivela, because if he gets possession here, he has all of this crazy space to work with. Then again, with the goalkeeper, I, again, in that situation there, would use my right stick upwards, clicking it in, right, to block out that trivela because he'll probably go for like a right-footed shot to the top side, right? So that's why I'm blocking that angle there so that we can avoid that as much as possible. But yeah, he goes for the cutback. We get we don't get possession of the ball because manual tackles are still a little bit weird in this game, but that's what you have to be looking for, right? If he goes for that trivela, you have to use the manual goalkeeping to block it out. You have to, because trivelas are really OP right now, okay? Okay, so this next one is obviously going to be the L1 speed boost that we have to talk about because it is one of the things that you have to look at when defending. So we'll take a look at some of the opportunities that people end up doing, right? So it's L1 speed boost and sided position plays. So your sided position plays when it comes to runs is going to be this general area here and then this general area here. Those are the areas that you have to look out the most for when it comes to speed boost and sided position plays. So in this situation right here, you can see that I overcommit my center back to the left-hand side, right? If he does the L1 speed boost here, he could really take off, right? I believe he tries to do like a regular dash into this area, but all we really have to do is just kind of like dash into that area as well, receive possession of the ball, and then basically go from there, right? But me overcommitting that middle spot there could have cooked me if he actually ended up using the L1 speed boost to kind of accelerate on the inside. He tries to do it anyways on his card, but it doesn't end up working because the animations were not registered quick enough there, right? So again, sided position plays, these are where the players are being triggered here. A lot of the times with the inside forward role being activated on cards, players will do this pretty often. So again, he makes his pass here, we control the center back, physical player, meta center backs are going to do this more often. You'll be able to receive possession of the ball that way, right? So let's see if we can get some situations here with the L1 speed boost. So again, L1 speed boost is when you see the original animation and then they just kind of like take off, right? So if you're seeing the animation, they're either going to fake you out and do the speed boost in that direction they're facing, or they're just going to do a speed boost in the opposite direction. So there's no like really right or wrong way of defending it because you're going to guess one or the other direction, right? But over here, you can already see, boom. You see that slowdown that he does? He's already trying to do the speed boost here. So what I have to do as a defender is be in this general right-sided position and kind of aim here. But at the same time, I can't only focus the right-hand side because he can make a pass into the middle and then Holland makes a run, whatever, right? So in this situation here, I just kind of hold the general position to the right-hand side because he's already doing that slowdown. The speed boost animation doesn't come off, but it's what you have to be looking into. You have to go into the direction of where you think the speed boost is going to go. Now, you have to be careful of this because if you go into situations and you use a second man press, you're going to get cooked, right? So this guy is using Kaká in this situation here, passes the ball back. The moment he makes this pass here, I already have to be switching my other players. But again, I'm looking at lob passes that he could be doing with other players. I'm looking at through balls he could be making with other players. And also the fact that if my gameplay is not good, I can't switch properly at all. But regardless, right, he makes his pass here. There's already too much space, right? And the switch has already gone to the wrong person here because I'm trying to switch to this guy here and then to defend that general area and then to use second man press with that guy. But all he has to do is that. He gets the L1 speed boost and he's gone, right? So these are the situations, right? It's always this area here and this area here that you have to look out for the most, right? So you have to use these guys earlier so that when he makes that pass, you can block that running angle earlier as well, right? So over here, one touch, right? His animation's already activated right there. It's already activated, so he can already get the speed boost in that situation. He thinks I'm going to use manual goalkeeping. We don't move him, and then the goalkeeper ends up making a save. But again, you have to be mindful of that because I'm showing you a situation where he makes the obvious run, but now we have another situation where the run is less obvious because he accelerates in the opposite direction. So let me show you. Over here, second man press, we switch because I already know that I'm facing a guy that's going to use the L1 speed boost. You can see that he's going upwards, right? But in the attacking tutorial, I showed you guys how you can go in the opposite direction and speed boost in the opposite direction, right? So he's going upwards, so I'm like, oh, maybe he'll speed boost in the opposite direction, and he doesn't. He speed boosts downwards. That's where I make the tackle because I assume he's going to go upwards. So again, guys, there's no right or wrong situation here because I'm blocking the middle in that position. Sure, I've now created a pace situation where he can kind of just like run in behind for sure. But you have to like pick your poison in these sort of situations, right? So I overcommit the middle, but he doesn't have much to work with in the side positions anyways, right? So he makes this cross here, he passes it back, and I still get possession of the ball. But again, if you're trying to defend this situation here, right, and you're using your player, you're obviously going to want to go to the bottom left side because that's where he's going to speed boost. But again, this is a prediction I make. I'm picking my poison in this situation. All my defenders are in the right angles here. If he cuts inside, he can easily get a through ball pass against my center back or a lob pass. So I'm choosing to block that area because again, he goes over here. I'm using my center back. My right back tracks back, right? And I still have all my defenders. So the risk and reward for me to go to the bottom side there, it doesn't make sense in the moment, right? But again, people will always aim towards doing these sided attacking plays, right? So it's either going to be with the L1 speed boost or it's just going to be the sided attacking plays in general. So again, he gets possession of the ball here. I'm overcommitting upwards a little bit, right? Just to kind of fake out and say, hey, I'm only going to overcommit upwards, but I don't. I go back downwards and I'm already preparing this angle over here that he kind of wants to go into just in case he does the L1 speed boost or just in case he uses the dash button to go on the inside. He chooses to do the dash button and we use the fullback to get possession of the ball, right? So that general position is what you always have to look into. But running into the areas that you think he'll do the L1 speed boost in is also going to be equally important. So those are all examples of like the heavy challenge of regular tackles. Okay, you're holding R1 and then you're holding the circle to do a heavy challenge on the player. I don't use that one too often. I usually just do like the regular challenges, but that's one example of the heavy challenges that you can do that are, you know, past like the regular challenges. And then the next one here is going to be the heavy slide challenges too. Heavy slide challenges are actually pretty decent if you're actually blocking out certain attacking opportunities where the guy has possession of the ball and you have to make a last-ditch tackle, right? So that's a heavy one, heavy one, heavy one, heavy one, right? The reason why I don't like using this one too much is because the animation, right? Like these are like really last-ditch challenges. You do that one when the guy is about to like score against you, basically. Like he cuts back, and you have to do like a last ditch slide tackle. So it makes sense for you to do that, right? So those are like the heavy challenges of the regular tackle and the slide tackle one, right? But most of the times what you'll be doing during the gameplay is you'll be holding the jockey, which is just you holding L2 like this, right? Just the regular jockey to hold a general position. And then the other one is going to be the speed jockey, right? The speed jockey is you holding R trigger while holding the L trigger, right? So speed jockey, you can see how much faster your player is moving. This one is more controlled. L2, R2 is less controlled, but quicker, right? So you have that trade-off basically when you're defending in that way. A lot of times I like to use like the second man press in certain situations, especially if I know the person's not going to L1 speed boost to defend. But again, those are like the different mechanics that you have to understand when defending in those situations. And then the other one that we're going to get into for this video as well is going to be the double tap R1, right? So if I pass the ball here, double tap R1, you can see that they start marking specific runners, right? My fullback started to mark the guy at the top. I'm holding double tap R1, right? Always marking these guys generally, right? So that they don't really make certain runs. And I'm always basically marking that general area, right? Now, the reason why I showed those general challenges is because I want to show you guys some in-game examples of how you're potentially going to defend in certain situations, right? So when you're manually using your defenders, you're always using the jockey, letting go of the jockey, using the speed jockey and letting go of it. It's always important, right? So this guy obviously tries to attack into the side position. That's the sided attack usually, right? We're using the jockey just to control the space there while using the second man press, right? So just the jockey to hold a general position here, but obviously he has a runner here, and this is where we have to make the switch, right? So we switch to the other center back there, holding jockey still, just to hold a general area. We don't have to speed jockey unless I think he's going to speed boost, right? Regular jockey, I do an actual challenge here. When you do challenges in this year's game, there is like a little bit of a magnetization for players to actually go for challenges. So Lorente, he actually does do a very good challenge against the opponents, right? So very basic defending where you're just holding the jockey and then timing your tackles when the situations present themselves, right? So again, another situation here, he's attacking the side areas. Jockey, little bit of a speed, want to hold the general area and I don't want to speed jockey, hold the general area with just the L trigger, using the second man press at the same time. He doesn't have any passing option here, so I just have to watch this middle space here, and I'll let him overcommit the side position if need be, right? So I'm just holding the area here, L trigger, we receive possession of the ball. We pass it off to the player on the side, but the example still stands, basically, with the tackling. So again, you do that, but you also try to force them into certain areas as well so that they don't overcommit certain areas. So over here, this guy goes for the corner kick tactic. I force him to the left-hand side because I defend to the right side. And then once I do that, I have the other player that is ready for the switch here. It switches to that player. And now I can aggressively move into the space and press the actual tackle button and receive possession and basically move forward. I wish that was more of a consistent thing, but that is the basic way of defending and the basic things that you're going to do most of the times when defending certain areas. Now, after like the regular challenges, the regular jockey system, you have second man press. Second man press is actually a pretty effective way of, defending in this year's game, especially if you're uncomfortable with transitioning with your players, if you think someone is going to dribble from the left side or the right side. Now, be careful with second man press, because the only time that you should not use it is if you really believe that the person is going to use an L1 speed boost. If they use an L1 speed boost and you're using second man press, they will overcommit into space and score opportunities. And that will be one of the examples that we do end up showing, right? But I just want to show you guys some examples of AI defending and second man press being very effective to use, right? While you with the left stick block out certain passing angles, right? So the person will be attacking here. I switch to the second man press. I switch immediately to him because I'm like, oh, I think he's going to use an L1 speed boost here, right? He uses some sort of dash variation, and I could see that my second man press is still going in the general trajectory of the L1 speed boost. So I'm okay with still using the second man press at this point. But then at some point I do switch because I'm like, let's see if I can get possession of the ball. I go for a challenge. We overcommit. That's okay because he doesn't have the space yet in this situation. So we just switch with the midfielder to block out the right back position because we've overcommitted. But now he has the space here to work with in the middle, right? Works with the space here in the middle. We switch, you'll notice here, right? So I already know that once he has this middle space here, his intention is going to be to go to the bottom every single time, right? Unless I know, again, this is very important to mention, unless I know that he will make the pass over here in this general area and go for a speed boost to the top right. So over here, I switch off the center back because I need to block this guy making a run after this guy. But from the second man press, once I switch off of him, right, because it's the last dude that I switch off, second man press, because he pushes the ball forward when he shouldn't. He has to be pushing the ball either to the left side or the bottom left side. The second man press wins possession of the ball for us, right? So timing when you use the guy manually and then letting go of him and then letting the second man press get the ball for you is going to be very key for defending in certain situations. So we'll show some other examples here, right? We initially use Schlotterbeck. We let go of Schlotterbeck, we hold the second man press, and I'm using the other player to mark the run that I think he could potentially make. So I'm using that guy there. But this is a situation here where AI defending is very effective because my Camavinga, because he holds that original defensive shape in the middle, and because he has holding plus, he comes back into position, he overcommits into the defensive player. Camavinga is the one that gets the ball for me, even though I'm not using the second man press on him, right? Again, holding defensive shape, second man press to overcommit center back. Look, I'm blocking areas, but I'm using second man press. Blocking areas, second man press, switching only when I think I'm going to receive possession of the ball from actually tackling him, right? Second man press. Second man press. I don't need to block anything else here. There's nothing else for me to block in this area. So I switch back to the player. I do a challenge with the actual circle button. I get possession of the ball. So again, timing when you use a second man press and then switching it off of it is going to be very important. So a couple more examples. Second man press, tackle to block the general interception area. He doesn't make the pass. Block the area again in the top. Second man press while I'm blocking the guy making the run with Patry, right? Patry, I'm blocking the middle space. I think he's going to maybe utilize the space over here. I switch to my center back. I'm still using second man press from the last player, right? Balde gets the ball for me. We can transition on the attack. Attack again in the side position. I'm using him manually. Switch off of him, block the middle spaces, right? I don't have to switch to my center back yet unless I know that he has a player that can pass the ball competently, right? Like if it's someone that has like a Messi or that's Patry on the ball with long ball pass, then I will use my center back to block out those situations, right? But in this situation, I don't need to do that. Second man press. He overcommits in the middle. He doesn't really have any attacking options here, right? So I just switch to the right players at the right time. I have to block the sided position play that people go for because in case he uses the L1 speed boost to kind of go on the inside there, he doesn't do that. He is looking for either the cutback into this player right here, or he's looking for the pass to the top over here. So I'm using second man press while blocking the guy at the bottom myself. Second man press gets possession of the ball for us with Camavinga. We go from there. Another example here, again, block in the middle. We have to block the runners. We have to block the runners while blocking the guy who's going to make the pass. So you'll notice that my Schlotterbeck is the one because he has the cursor on his head on that second man press. The green is activated. But remember that this gets depleted if you're holding it for too long, but we're holding it for a good amount of time here. I am blocking the runner. I'm also using the second man press to also do a challenge against the attacker, but to also block out the passing angle, right? If this guy in this situation uses an L1 speed boost where he's using L1 dribbling downwards, but then he accelerates in the opposite direction, I'm cooked here, right? But this is the risk that you have to be willing to take, and this is what you're noticing against your opponents when you're playing against them, right? So second man press to block the general area, but I'm still blocking the runner. Second man press gets the ball for us. Okay, middle play here. Again, similar situations before. You can see that I'm already doing it, right? I switch originally to Schlotterbeck, right? So the switch is originally to him, right there. Then I switch off of him, and now he has a second man press thing on his head, okay? So I'm second man pressing to block the passing angle. He gets the pass off, but we're still using the other center back. Second man press. But look, I'm overcommitting the second man press with the fullback. But what do I do when I'm overcommitting with my fullback? Because now he's occupying the center back position. I am moving my center back to the left back position so that he doesn't have that attacking angle. And then from the second man press with the more agile left back, we get possession of the ball, right? So if you're overcommitting, you also have to be mindful of the player that you're overcommitting so that you can occupy his spot afterwards. So again, another situation here. The second man pressing, right? We lose possession. Last switch. You can see that the second man press is activated on the player here, holding it. He goes backwards. We get possession of the ball that way. We can transition on the attack afterwards. Again, second man press there. We don't get fortunate enough because sometimes they'll block the through ball. Sometimes they'll block the lob pass, but they don't. But what do I do, right? This entire situation. When I'm using the left back and I'm overcommitting him, I'm using my center back to make sure that I'm blocking the left back area because I've overcommitted the left back. So I'm using that. Second man press. We use Schlotterbeck. We pass the ball backwards. Again, he gets possession of the ball because we can't pass the right person here. So again, situation here. Makes sense to switch to Schlotterbeck. Switch off of him, switch back to him, right? So you're picking and choosing, right? Because look at what happens here when I'm using Schlotterbeck and I'm using second man press in the right positions. My ball day cuts out that middle passing angle. The meta players are going to do this very often. If you guys have Theo Hernandez as your left back, oh my goodness gracious, he's crazy yet again this year, right? So that's someone that you definitely need to be looking into, especially with the links to Varane and Turam, right? Again, controlling him. Don't need to control him the entire time at some point, right? Because he cuts back. Once he cuts back, I don't need to hold that angle anymore. Second man press, my Camavinga gets the ball, right? But again, because I've overcommitted the Camavinga, now I know that he's out of position. So when he's out of position, right, in this situation here, if he has a tactic that has any sort of attacking players, Camavinga's out of position now. But I'm willing to overcommit that because I know that nobody is here. So understanding who's there and who's not and what players need to occupy from the second man press is going to be very important to look at as well. Okay, so the first mechanic that we're going to be showing is essentially the shoulder barge, right? These are going to be two different mechanics because the shoulder barge goes hand in hand with a double tackle, right? So the shoulder barge is basically like this, right? So someone's attacking against me. Let me just make sure that this is doing this properly, okay? We'll show off this entire clip here. Okay. He attacks the middle. We switch shoulder barge, right? Now you're gonna notice that my player does an animation that essentially allows him to kind of like speed boost in a way. But I want you to look at my commands as to why he actually does it. And by the way, this was during good gameplay, so this will come off really nicely because if it's not good, it might be a pass, you know. But anyways, I want you to take a look at the commands, okay? So you'll notice right away that I'm just running, okay? Then I'm over here, tap X, double tap X, boom, gets ahead of the player, right? What that does, the tapping of the X, is that it kind of forces your player to aggressively push towards the attacker if you time it correctly, right? If you're not timing it correctly, you can actually give away a penalty, especially if you're holding the second man press while doing that, because that will result in you pushing the player down and it resulting in a penalty kick or whatever. But there it ends up working perfectly because you'll see that I'm initially on the right hand side because my player is locked there because there's no super cancel in this game, right? So I'm locked there. That doesn't make any sense, right? So that's why I do the tap X, and then I double tap so that I can aggressively push downwards. And that gives me possession of the ball, right? Very, very effective way of defending. Now, because we're also using tactical defending, you can do a shoulder barge when you press the tackle button, but you have to feel it out. It's very important to mention this, okay? Over here, we have a clip with Ronald Araujo, right? As a center back. I push back because I don't want to give him the through ball, the lob pass, right? And you'll notice here, he takes that touch. I'm running, but then I tap circle. My player does not do a tackle. He does a shoulder barge against the opponent. Because when you're using tactical defending, the game is choosing for you when it comes to aggressively pushing up against the attacker, okay? So like I mentioned, with this one, there's kind of like 3-in-1, essentially, right? So over here, you're going to see what I mean about the double tackle. Sometimes you guys are going to see me do the double tackle, and you're like, oh, he's just mistiming his tackle. No. When I've played this game, I've realized certain animations happen when you're doing certain things, okay? I'm going to show you guys one thing, because this might not be something that you guys know. So, in the fullback position, I want you to watch very carefully. You see how I got that ball, right? This is a command that I figured out as I'm playing the game. And I'm like, oh, I can do this if I time this correctly, okay? This is the thing that I call the double tackle. It doesn't make sense for me to tackle here and expect a shoulder barge, but that's not the reason why I'm doing it, okay? I'm doing this because when I do this tackle and I switch the person right away, I can get the ball nicely from a challenge afterwards if I time it correctly, okay? Because you'll notice that my commands with the controller is for second man pressing afterwards. Watch the controller. Second man press, and I got the ball. Okay? Another example here. This initial one was me attempting a shoulder barge. Because like I said, when you're using tactical defending and you're pressing the tackle button, the game is going to choose for you whether or not you're going to do a shoulder barge or a regular challenge, right? This is mistimed on my part. Now, mistimed on my part, but the gameplay was good, by the way, for these footages. I do a challenge. Obviously, I don't get the shoulder barge, but watch the second part. Challenge. Let go of him. Second man press. Gets the ball for me. Right? Dribble, dribble. We can break out of play. Very effective way of being able to utilize both the shoulder barge with what I do with Araujo, where I'm pushing up against the guy, and it's not a foul, right? Just get possession of the ball really nicely. And then this is a good example of doing the double challenge to essentially face your player in a way where you can make a decision afterwards, right? Boom, I'm in the middle. So if he's using L1 speed boost, he'll just blitz right past me, especially with the AI defending in this situation, right? But, you know, he's not using it. So switch, boom, get the ball right away. Because when you do this initial movement from the tackle, you can now choose between the left and the right side, right? Because if I have to switch to him afterwards, I can chase after him because the pace, unless you do a speed boost, he's not going to be like crazy off, right? Over here, similar situation. I can chase after him. You can see the defender has that advantage. So tackle, and I can go right back into it. He's doing all the extra stuff. We get the challenge back. So that's like 2 of the 3 of kind of going up against the defender in a certain way. And then there's the third one. The third one, all you're doing is you're running into the ball when you're defending, right? Maybe taking an extra touch to get away from the attacker so you can make an extra pass, but you're just running into the ball. This one, you have to be very careful of. The reason why you have to be careful is because this game's registration when the gameplay is not up to par is horrendous. So sometimes this magnetization that is supposed to exist in the game from you running to the ball, because it's supposed to be your possession, doesn't always register, okay? When the gameplay is good, it registers almost every single time. So let me just show you guys some examples, right? So that we're just defending right now. Right here, this is a good example. So you could see his players over here, my players over here. By the time the ball gets here, you can already tell that I'm going to get possession of it. So what makes sense for me to do in this situation? It makes sense for me to just keep holding the dash button so I can get a touch away from the opponent. Can I do a first time pass? Backwards, sure. But you guys know that angled passes facing forward like this and then going backwards is not always a consistent thing to work with. And since he is overcommitting his attacker that's on the left-hand side in this situation, that means that I am now going to create space for myself on the right-hand side here, right? So how do I defend this? I just keep holding our trigger. He overcommits into it, right? Because he does not press the L1, R1, R2, L2 cancel, which is so stupid. It should literally just be L2, R2, but it is what it is. You have to press all four of them, and he doesn't cancel, which now creates a situation for myself where I can go on the attack afterwards. And now look at the space that I have to work with in the middle, or in the middle and in the side position. I make the pass here. I can go to my striker, whatever. I have a guy at the top over here. If this guy has long ball pass, I can launch it to this guy at the top, but this is an option I have. So the defending in this situation was just running. Run, beat the opponent. Now I can transition on the attack, right? Second one over here, another example. So this guy's running. Again, using a fullback, just holding our trigger. At some point, your game is going to register the ball is yours, right? It just registers. You run, you're good to go. We do a couple of extra dribbles. Over here, similar situation. Running. At some point, you're going to see your player locks onto the ball. There's this magnetization, right? Running, magnetization. Now the ball's mine. So you got to be careful, again, because sometimes the game's not always going to register that. And I'm going to show you an example of that, okay? So we make the pass here, now we can transition. Now it's being calm, right? Again, this guy pushes a side position, run. Get the possession of the ball. This is where the gameplay is a little bit more rough, by the way, is, start making certain things, right? This one's the funny one. You could tell my player is... That's not an intentional one. That's me compensating for the gameplay. But over here, right? Another situation, run. Never press a tackle. But I'm lucky because the game registers a magnetization for me to get a challenge off, right? Look, just running. I did not press a tackle button. My player just got the ball for me there, right? Now watch this one. Boom, run, nothing, right? So this is where you have to be very careful, because the game will either register the magnetization or it registers that it wants you to do a challenge there. Like it wants you to do an actual tackle. But I have had many situations where if my gameplay was up to par, this is my ball, right? Look at this. That's a huge emphasis touch. Look at how close the player is here. No magnetization from Lorente, right? So he could just keep it going. And then once I realize I have no magnetization, my brain has to switch. My brain chemistry has to switch. And now it's like, okay, I can't trust that it's going to do that now. I have to do like the actual tackle button, right? Like you have to switch. Like I said, it's game compensation, right? So I get into the situation here. He's doing all this stuff here. He does the skill move. We switch, run into the ball. That one actually ends up working, right? But again, it'll be inconsistent. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like the magnetization will not always work depending on how the gameplay is, right? So another situation here, Holland has the ball. We're just running. Boom, we get possession of the ball, right? So simple, but very effective. You're just running, but you got to be careful of that magnetization. So again, all those three, they're kind of like hand in hand with each other. Okay, so the next situation that we're going to be teaching is the air balls. Now, the air balls is something that you guys have to be very careful of. Now, remember, in the initial settings that I showed you guys, I have my settings set to directional. If your gameplay is not up to par and you're clearing it to your right side, but your initial movement was facing upwards to then clear it to the right side, if you're playing in delay, he will clear it upwards, even if you have directional. So just be very mindful of this. I'm teaching you, but I'm also telling you that you're going to have to compensate if you play the game, okay? In some situations. So I want to teach you guys some mechanics that some of you guys may not know, okay? This guy does a goal kick. I want you to see how this plays out, just normally, okay? You may be wondering, how do I win possession of the ball there? Because you guys will see the control on the top, right? You will notice that I am going to move my thumbstick in a way that's going to allow me to win possession of this opportunity. But I'm also going to be able to change my command as the ball's in the air, okay? So watch what I'm doing here. The initial button is I am holding circle. When you hold circle or B, you are jumping at your maximum capability, or you are being the most aggressive you could possibly be. You can see the command here on the bottom left. It is fully green, fully maxed out. Okay. So that means that the command has registered for either aggressiveness or either jumping to the maximum of its capability. Okay. But you'll notice that when I'm doing this situation here, when I am doing the aggressive clearance, is I'm pushing up against the attacker. And then I'm changing my command to do a pass. So when I initially did the aggressiveness and I seen that my game already registered it, it's already there, right? Aggressiveness, my player is already going to be doing it. So in the last moments, I can push up against the attacker and win possession of the ball from a pass. So initially I did the clearance or the initial aggressiveness. And then in the last seconds, I'm choosing to do a pass. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Because it's not just jumping high. It's also aggressiveness to push up against the attacker. And if you're timing it a certain way, you can switch it at the end to a pass, okay? So that's how that works. There's a couple of other clips here of some examples I gotta show you guys, right? So this one is an example. I'm using my defender. This registers correctly. Bottom left side holding circle, directional clearance. My player is going to jump to the maximum of its capability, and I'm going to be able to clear the ball to the bottom left side, okay? Because it made sense for how my player was facing, and I don't want to risk a corner kick, because corner kicks, guys, are pray. You have to pray to defend them, okay? Because it's very, the most you can do is push your goalie out in advance and hope that he doesn't do like a corner kick tactic that shoots directly to the nets, because they're random, okay? Like I've tried double tapping R1, this and that. It's random. People could still score them. There's not really a skill variable to them. Like, it's crazy, but it is what it is, right? But in those situations there, I have the right players, or in just for this situation, I have the right player that could clear this ball out. But you want to try your best to get players that have aerial plus or aerial, one or the other. Aerial is a big play style to try to avoid the corner kick stuff as much as possible, okay? But hey, my Gonzalo Inacio was able to clear it out. But that's just the example. Holding circle, holding B will jump to the maximum of its capability, and he will clear the ball in the right direction. Okay? That's just like basic stuff here. Then we could create some randomness and we get the ball from it, right? Because it came from something that we did before. And there's this one over here. Let's see what clip this one is. Oh, so this is just us passing the ball. I only pass the ball when I know I should get it. But you're not always right. Sometimes the game is a little bit weird, right? But when you know you're going to get the ball, like this, like the attacker could win it. If it's like if I notice if it's like a Holland next to me, I'll be a little bit more debatable. It's like, maybe, you know? But over here, I could just directionally face, the top left-ish area, pass the ball, and I win possession of it, right? So that is what you're working with when it comes to the air balls. Just be mindful that when it comes to the air balls and passing the ball, passes from headers are really trash sometimes, like really, really trash. So be very careful with those ones, because the player will be right next to you and you'll pass the ball to them from a header and it will not go towards them, okay? So just be very careful of that one individually. But a lot of the times for corner kicks, for some of the crosses, directional clearance while holding it to the maximum command, it's going to be the most ideal thing for you to avoid those situations, okay? With the initial air balls that I just showed you guys, there is also this that you have to be very careful of, okay? You guys know, because you guys probably watch the reviews, right? There's so many situations where I'm like, attacker advantage. I usually say attacker advantage, right? This is a very good example of it. So this is a guy that I'm playing against, right? That gets the ball here, does a lob pass, right? And, I'm facing upwards, he's facing downwards. So my initial thought here is, hey, I should be able to get the ball here, that the angles kind of make the most sense for it, right? What I don't realize in the moment is that he switches to the top left side. This is where attacker advantage comes out, because I will press a button earlier here to pass the ball right there, right? but I didn't notice that his player goes to the top right. I wish the gameplay was always good because you can blame yourself for this type of stuff more often if it was. But I pass the ball, and guess what? Araujo does an animation to pass the ball, but there's attacker advantage. So he wins possession of this ball, okay? And when he wins possession of this ball, right away, I'm pushing my goalkeeper because I'm just trying to close the angle as soon as possible, especially if he keeps holding on to the R trigger. Good players, they won't hold on to the R trigger that long, because if he keeps holding on to that dash button and I'm pushing out my goalkeeper, you guys know, because I teach you guys this all the time, that his last touch when he's close to the goalkeeper is always going to be more emphasized every single time, okay? So when you're looking into stuff like that, be very careful. If you're clearing the ball or you're passing the ball, your defender will do an animation. And his attacker, if he has attacker advantage from certain angles, he'll chest the ball, he'll head the ball, and he'll win it over you. So be very careful when you're deciding to do a pass or a clearance in situations like that as well, okay? The next clips that I'm going to show you guys is going to be based off of defensive shape, okay? And this is why I showed you guys the original 4-5-1 tactic that I was personally using, because your defensive shape is going to really dictate whether or not you can block out certain opportunities, okay? So you guys remember, I have a left mid, a right mid, and 3 center mids. I want you guys to notice how I personally defend in each situation, okay? So we lose possession of the ball here, and you're going to notice right away when I notice that my 3 center mids are, positioned a certain way, that I'm trying to push them back to just be in the right defensive shape, because people always go for through balls, lob passes, and the L1 speed boost to then counter attack against you. So you have to be very careful of this, okay? So he's going on the counter attack. All I'm doing is trying to keep my shape of my defense and my midfield to be the same, okay? So I have my defenders, but I'm switching to my midfielders constantly to track them back right away, and keep my defenders the same way. In these areas, and this will be hand in hand with the defensive line that you guys are going to see as well, you have to always look at whether or not he's going to use the lob pass, whether or not he's going to do the through ball, because you cannot use midfielders if he starts using player lock or if these players start making runs. You have to use your defenders to avoid that specific attacking AI thing while your midfielders are tracking back. But in this whole entire situation here, when I lose possession of it, I'm just tracking back and my midfielders tracking back, try to do a tackle to intercept, don't get it, try to do a tackle to intercept there, and I get it, right? So another situation here, my opponent is attacking against me, always keeping the defensive shape, right? Even if it's just the AI, switch, push it back, but it's always the same, right? Before he makes this bad mistake here, look at the shape of the team. The only person that's not in the position anymore is Musiala, but I have 4 midfielders here, right? And the 3 are always blocking that general middle area. He makes a pass here, I get the ball at Patry. But look at what happens, right? And this is what we're going to talk about afterwards. I see the person making the run. Right here. Look at my controller at the top, right there. Double tap R1 when you see someone making a run. Okay, if it makes sense in the moments, because sometimes you put players out of positions, but double tap R1 and then let go of it. Let the AI do its thing again. She's back in position. I get possession of the ball. If Musiala, honestly, he kind of annoys me. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Like, I would have to use him as like a shadow striker cam for me to like him, because as a left mid, he's bothering me like crazy. But he's not left-footed. It's always good to have strong foot on the strong side. He makes a poor pass there. It should have been a goal. With the right players, it would be a goal under the right circumstances, right? So yeah, again, similar situation, keeping defensive shape. Musiala is not the one that's tracking back. The other one has already tracked back, right? But keeping defensive shape constantly. I'm always trying to keep the 3 midfielders as the 3 midfielders, and the left mid, right mid in the right positions too. Again, track back, right? The midfield, you'll notice what I'm trying to do the most, right? Is that the midfield and the defense, I don't want the gap to be too big. It cannot be too big, because you create a situation like last year where with the direct passing tactic, they will just push up against your defenders and they'll score easy opportunities against you. So that's why with the custom tactics, I'm going to show you guys here in a bit, people are using 70 depth because 70 depth is auto offside traps. So watch this whole clip and look at how my defensive line is behaving without me pressing the offside trap. Look at where they're positioned right now. And now look at where my midfielders are. Before I win possession of this ball, look at how congested this is. There's no distance like this. The distance is like this. It's close, right? It allows you to get the ball back in these situations. Again, another situation here, keeping defensive shape. Right mid's not in position. He will be at some point. Holding every area. Alex Garcia is my right center mid. We win possession of the ball here. Attack, attack, attack. Boom, boom. One little run right there. Green time to the near post. We score that opportunity. So a lot of the times if people make mistakes in the middle of the pitch, you will score easier opportunities because they have players that are kind of like out of position, right? So this is the defensive shape part. Whether that's a 4-4-2, whether that's a 4-1-2-2, your defensive shape should always be the same because if one player goes out of position, it's easier for the person to attack against that area. So always look at the defensive shape of your team. Try not to use your center backs as much as possible, but if people are making runs, you do have to switch because lob passes are very effective in this game, okay? So I just showed you guys the defensive shape of your team, right? There's a big reason why people are using 70 depth for their custom tactics, and it's because they always want consistent movement out of their defenders so that they avoid the whole, hey, the attacker's pushing up against me. We have direct passing 2.0. Now he can just attack against me very easily, right? So that's why people have it. There's two different ways of looking at it. One, it's great that it does that, but the trade-off is that someone can easily score a counterattack against you if you're not defending properly or if you don't have really good meta defenders. It's very, very tough, okay? But this game's pretty to win. It's this year, it's kind of crazy. But let me just show you guys some stuff here, right? So defending. Look at how my defenders are reacting without me doing offside trap. Look at the balance of the midfielders and the defenders constantly, right? When you're defending in a high line and you have to watch for oncoming runners, you have to track back, but push forward, track back, push forward, track back, push forward, right? Because you're defending against where you think the run is going to happen, right? So in this situation here, the congestion of the midfield and the defense, this is good. There's no problem in this situation whatsoever as of right now. But he makes his pass. Okay, now he has more of an attack. I'm switching to the center back up top because he's not going to transition downwards unless he does an L1 speed boost, right? If I think my opponent's going to do L1 speed boost, the way that you defend has to be a little bit different because he can L1 speed boost in any direction, right? But I don't want to talk too much about that L1 speed boost because I do think it's going to get nerfed. So talking about it is kind of like, but it is a way that you have to defend. It's very important as well. So my thing is that his transition on the attack is going to be to go upwards, right? So it doesn't make sense for me to constantly be using the guy at the bottom. So I'm switching to the center back in the left center back area. And right away, I'm looking at the runner, but I'm also looking at the guy at the top, right? If he does a lob pass to him, hey, no big deal. There's just still not really much to work with afterwards. But right now, I have to block the runner. I have to block the general area of where I think he's going to go. He makes the pass in the middle area. Just from us using the jockey system, right? So you can see my controller at the top. It's a lot of holding just the L2 for regular jockey, and then it's a lot of the L2 R2, which is the speed jockey. It's always constantly holding them both, holding two of them, or holding one, or you know what I'm saying? So here we're just holding our trigger, second man pressing. Over here, L trigger. I'm not doing speed jockey. I just want to hold a general area. And then if I feel like he's going to keep going to the left, then I'll speed jockey. And not even speed jockey, I'll speed jockey initially, and then I'll let go of the jockey and then just dash to go and face the guy, right? So over here, I don't need to speed jockey unless it's at the very end. You could see like the explanation I just told you, right? The reason why there's an R trigger at the end is because just in case it doesn't make sense that he's going to go to the right side anymore and he keeps going to the left, right? So again, regular jockey, And then I'm dashing because I'm expecting, hey, if he gets through here, I'm just gonna keep dashing to my left side, right? You can see that's the command that I'm holding right now. Because if the initial thing doesn't work, then I have to adapt and do the next thing after, right? Which one is this one here? So passing play, defensive, 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 tackle, yeah. What is it? What is this one for? Oh, the high defensive line. Yeah, this is just so I show you an example. Even when I lose possession of the ball and I'm not pressing the offside trap, look at what happens, right? I lose the ball, but look at the defense. Look at the he's offside. Without me doing offside trap, he's offside, 70 depth. Okay. This one is a really good example of when you are defending incorrectly or you're not using meta players. Gonzalo Inacio, when I was playing the game, he was the one doing the most mistakes compared to Araujo. Like this, it's a very big difference. Like honestly, if I was gonna go meta, I'd probably go with like Eder Militao and Araujo, right? Because the mistakes with Ronald is almost like negligible. He's so good, right? This one, a little bit of an overcommitment. You have to be careful because sometimes your defensive roles that you sit on your center backs, like if you have like stopper plus or ball playing defender or whatever, you have stopper plus, they'll overcommit and sometimes it'll create space for the other person, right? This is a good example. In this situation here, he's running. You know what I'm saying? He's running. So in this situation, I have to switch to my center backs because he's running. And if he does a lob pass, he's gone. Especially with Lionel Messi on the ball, he is gone. You know what I'm saying? So over here, I switch to the center back and I'm going forward at the very end, I'm like, oh no, I have to go backwards, right? It's already too late. Very easy opportunity. My defensive line is really high, right? He attacks, but fortunately for us, he goes for a power shot and the goalie does end up saving it. But that's a trade-off, right? You get movement out of your defenders, but you also make it easier for someone to lob pass and to through ball against you, especially if you don't defend well in the right situations. The moment I see that runner making a run, I have to chase after him a little bit, just a little bit, and then just put him right back offside. A little bit, right back offside. A little bit, right back offside. But I have to do that initial chase because if he makes that pass in line with my defender like he did right there, he's gone. And then I have to chase after him afterwards, and it's going to be a little bit harder. This year, you can chase after them, but in that situation, he's gone. You know what I'm saying? If he takes the right strike there, it'll be a goal. Okay, guys, for this next mechanic, it's going to be another mechanic that you guys are definitely going to have to learn, and it's actually going to be the offside trap. So in order for you to activate the offside trap with your D-pad, you are just tapping it upwards twice. Boom, 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 boom. You can see in the quick tactics on the bottom left that it starts to activate, right? So we'll just give this ball away right over here. Tap it a little bit. There you go, right? So if you're tapping it with the offside trap, you can see the radar in the middle, or just watch the way that the team is performing. Double tap, offside trap, offside trap, offside trap, right? You can see that there's different quick tactics at the bottom. When you press up on the D-pad, you have team press, you have overload set pieces, and then you also have get in box, right? So there's a couple of quick stuff there that you can work with, but the way that you're supposed to use the offside trap is, one, if you notice someone's making a run and you're confident that you can get him offside, very key word, confident, then you just spam the offside trap, right? And you're applying pressure against your opponent, and then you put them in an offside position. But the best way of utilizing it is to make sure that your defensive line and your midfield line is close to each other, right? Because there's moments in the game where it's almost like direct passing still exists, and your opponent's attackers are going to be touching your defenders, and then your midfielders are going to be like a little bit further away, and you don't want that, right? So let me show you guys some examples of, utilizing the offside trap. It is something that I personally use a lot, but you have to be careful because if you misuse it, then they're going to just do an easy counterattack against you, right? So let me show you guys some examples here of the offside trap. Just going to play this clip right here. Okay, so he's in the top position there, right? Goes backwards, right? In this position here, I already noticed that he's forcing a run, right? And again, you have to be confident on this, because if you're not, he's going to have the easiest breakaway possible, right? So for me, I double tap upwards on the D-pad, boom, he's offside now, right? But I'm also doing the offside trap to force pressure against my opponent because I'm noticing three different guys making runs. So it just makes sense for me in this situation to use the offside trap and to put him offside so that I can just get possession of the ball, right? So you have to like really time it correctly in this situation to really get it off. But again, he makes that run. The moment I notice the run, I'm already double tapping the D-pad, right? So that I can put him in an offside position, get the ball back, and go from there. This is another good example of offside trap where I'm utilizing it just to put my midfield and my defense like this, right? As much as possible. So there's not a lot of space between them. Now, again, you have to be careful because you see this guy over here at the bottom making a run. If I mistime this offside trap, right, and he sees this runner and he's using someone like Patry or Bruno Fernandes and they use the long ball pass, you're going to be cooked here, right? So in a situation like this, he goes upwards. There's no longer specific runners that I have to look into except for this guy right here. But you can see that he's already stopping his momentum because he's put into an offside position. But I am using the offside trap to apply pressure against the opposition. So you'll notice it at some point in this clip here, right? Boom. So his player takes a bad touch, right? But again, look at the spacing between my midfielders and my defenders. And I'm just trying to close that space, right? So that they're as close to each other as possible. And as you guys know, your track back in this game is very effective. And the other person's touch, they're going to have to take a heavy touch just to settle the ball. So you're going to create a situation for yourself. Well, because he is settling the ball, you'll be able to get a defensive play afterwards. But again, you have to be very careful because if he gets a long ball pass or a through ball with the right players that are passing the ball, he's just going to be through on goal, right? So you definitely have to use it in the right situations. It is a very effective way of defending so that you make sure that your space between your defenders and midfielders are very, very tight. But again, very effective. This is also another very vague example of, utilizing offside trap, but it doesn't do exactly what I wanted. But then I'm kind of preparing for the other attacking play that I think my opponent's going to want to do, right? So over here, you'll see what I mean about the space between the midfielders and the defenders, okay? So once he attacks like this, right, you could already see over here that there is this gap. This whole gap right here I don't want, because watch how his attackers are reacting to my defenders, right? It almost looks like direct passing again, right? So we're gonna let this play out. Pass the ball over here, right? He's dribbling a little bit. Boom. Look at that space. So much space created. This is in due part because of me, because I'm overcommitting Patry. Patry is getting out of that left center mid position, so I'm removing that defensive shape, which you don't want to do, right? But it's like, hey, as the situations come, you're kind of adapting, and then I'm also compensating for how the gameplay feels too. Is you have to consider this because it's harder to defend when it's like this. But he makes his pass. This is already a dangerous situation because the gap between my midfielders and my defenders is too far, right? So my mind has to now adjust to the next thing, right? Is these sided attacking plays, which I'll be doing a separate part in this video, right? I'm already prepared for it. I'm using Schlotterbeck, sided attacking play, in case he wants to do the L1 speed boost. Touches the ball. My initial thoughts is just to go to the left-hand side and use this sprint jockey and receive possession of the ball that way, right? You're adapting to what's like happening in front of you, right? So certain things, you're trying to defend as much as possible. You're trying to focus on the defensive shape. Defensive shape gets ruined. You try to use offside trap before, there's too much of a gap. You have to adapt to the next thing that comes, right? So if you're on the PlayStation, right, the way that I do it, because I personally don't like the way that the D-pad placement is with the thumbstick, the Xbox controller is superior in my opinion because of this. I actually never want to let go of my left stick, right, with my left hand, because you're supposed to still use your left stick to control the right players at the right time. I actually stretch over my right hand like this. I will go over 4 fingers and I'll literally just do this. That's how I'll do it, right? So you'll see in the game, it'll activate. This is how I'm personally doing. I'm stretching over my right hand to the left side to do it. On the Xbox, you don't have to because your thumbstick is here. And then with your right hand, you would just stretch over to your D-pad and then use it with your right hand, right? Again, this is why I think the Xbox controller is superior, but you could still do it on the PlayStation. That's how I personally do it because I don't want to let go of the thumbstick. A lot of people that do offside traps, they're holding their controller, they let go of the left stick, which is controlling their players, and then they start doing the offside trap. And that's not ideal because you need to be able to do both things at once, especially if you're seeing certain people making certain runs, right? So what goes hand in hand with a high defensive line, an offside trap that's being spammed? It's aggressive defending, right? Aggressive defending will sometimes reward you in this game, but sometimes it can screw you as well. Like a tackle that you're making that should be yours sometimes won't end up being yours. But a lot of the times, if you notice that someone is positioned a certain way and you know that they're going to take a crazy emphasis touch, it's really good for you to just accelerate into the play to get possession of the ball. So I'll show you guys some examples of this. So over here, you know, our opponent has possession of the ball. He's attacking the side position. I'm noticing emphasis right here already with his Kyle Walker. So I'm already trying to aggressively get this ball, right? Boom, aggressive defending. I don't get rewarded. Well, not rewarded, but you need like a taller player that has lengthy. That's why like Valverde and stuff, Bellingham, like these guys, the taller guys, physical will definitely make a really big difference. Although Patry makes a difference because of her long ball pass being crazy, right? But yeah, he gets possession of the ball here. I overcommit with my center back because here's what I'm noticing, right? If I am committing my center back in this situation, he doesn't have another attacker there. So I don't have to be worried about that when I'm overcommitting this situation, right? So I'm allowed to overcommit this because I only have one other attacker to worry about. This guy is covering this guy at the top. This guy is covering here. If he has two strikers, I'm never overcommitting this in a million years because he's just going to go through on goal. But in this situation here, you have to notice things as they happen, right? So I know that he's going to make that pass, so I can aggressively move into that position with Gonzalo Ignacio. He's a left-footed player. I can make a challenge in that situation, receive possession of the ball, and then go from there, right? So being able to be aggressive in certain situations will reward you if you're noticing certain things as they come, right? So again, that's a situation there with Patry where, you know, I do a challenge, she gets absolutely bullied, and, you know, it should be a possession-based challenge, but it just isn't, right? She gets absolutely, like, destroyed there. Possession-based challenge there with Lorente, another very good example, right? So this guy is attacking. I'm noticing that the space that he has to occupy is this entire space right here. So I switch immediately to my Lorente and go for just a regular challenge. You can see on my controller, circle button, and we receive possession of the ball because he doesn't have much to work with at the top unless this guy is making a run afterwards. But if he ends up making a run, it's not that big of a deal because I will have my other center back that I'll linger in the general middle position here because this guy could potentially make a run overlapping on the bottom side, right? So it's just adapting to what you're noticing as it's happening, right? So aggressive defending, switching to the right players to occupy a certain spot is going to be ideal because, as you guys know, when you lose possession of the ball in this general area, this is like the best way to attack because look, the striker's already open, right? I could just do a through ball with him and I can get rewarded if I have like the right meta players, right? But unfortunately, got to upgrade the team a little bit more. Yeah, trust me, if you guys watch the Mbappe review, brother, oh man, you win possession of the ball in the middle of the pitch, like it's pretty much a goal every time. Like your thinking has to be like crazy every single time. But yes, aggressive defending can be rewarding, but conservative defending is also a rewarding thing in this game too because of the certain situations as well, right? Tactical fouls, also a very big thing in this game, right? We have possession of the ball here, we lose it. He goes over here, take him out, man. Look at the time. Time is the 89th minute. I'm winning by a goal, right? And we actually get fortunate here because I don't know if the clip actually shows it, but Upamecano only gets a yellow card. But it's worth the risk to get that red card because I'm winning by a goal in the last like minutes of the game. If he scores, then I'm kind of cooked if we go into extra time. But it's a tactical foul. It's what you should be doing, right? Because there's the slide tackle ones. There's this other slide tackle one. Hey, tactical challenges, right? If someone uses something like a speed boost against you, right? Little clip right here. L1, L1. Take him out, bro. It's the 90th minute with 1 extra minute of time, and I'm winning by a goal to nil. Pause the game. Switch in a center back. You're good to go. You're chilling. And then there's this one, which is the new thing that you can do in the game. So that's the new tactical foul, right? So the way to activate the tactical foul is to hold R1 and then to hold the X button, okay? So you can see here, he pulls at his shirt behind, and it's a tactical challenge. Most of the times you will get yellow cards. Now, the reason why I'm showing you that one is because you have to be very careful with it, because if you're playing online, you guys know that you're holding second man press while you're defending. So if you by accident, I did this in the beginning of the year, if you by accident are using the second man press and then you're holding the X button because you're trying to do the other defensive mechanic I just showed you, you're going to foul them by accident because you're going to do the tactical foul, right? Tactical fouls are an amazing way of avoiding certain situations, whether that's you overcommitting an actual slide challenge or doing a tactical foul to avoid a counterattack in the last minutes of the game when you're winning by a goal, right? But you have to be very careful, because if you're holding the R1 because you're trying to second man press and you're still holding and you hold X, you'll tackle the guy. And then, guys, last but not least, the kickoff glitch, right? So we do end up scoring a goal in the 86th minute. He goes for the kickoff glitch. The most important thing is that from kickoff, you switch to your center back right away, right? You switch to your center back right away. He goes for the kickoff. You block the opportunity with your center back, right? Not that it matters, because he ends up scoring a goal in the last minute of the game, which should not have counted anyways. Slide tackle. He does that. Poor shot angle. Right? Neuer saves it. Game should be done. And then the luck-based corners, right? So I move the goalkeeper, trying to block out Van Dijk as much as possible. He uses Van Dijk, scores the opportunity, no skill, and then we move from there. So yeah, that's pretty much it from the defending tutorial. Okay, guys, so hopefully I've covered pretty much every angle as much as I possibly could. The main things that you have to look for when it comes to defending currently, unless a patch comes out, is going to be the L1 speed boost. So make sure that you're blocking that general vicinity that you think he's going to speed boost into. And then the other one is going to be the cutback trivela. And if you think he's going to do a cutback trivela because your midfielders are out of position, you have to make sure, like I mentioned in the video, that depending on the angle of where you're facing, you're going to hold your right stick and go down or up, down or up, down or up. You're holding it in, down or up. If he's trivela, if he's doing a trivela from the top side and he's using his right foot, you're going to go down to block the trivela. If he's using his right foot on the bottom right side, you're doing up, right? Like it all depends on the angles that the person is facing. If he gets that one angle in the middle of the pitch, like you guys have seen from some of the tactic videos of me showing the trivela, you have to use the manual goalkeeping, or else he'll score easy goals against you, especially if he greens it. And if he uses really good players like Mbappe or Hansen, like he can hit white time strikes and they'll go into the back of the net. So those are the two main ways, but these are the other ones that I also wanted to show you guys as well. So yes, these videos are very long, but I try to show you guys as many examples as possible to help you guys out, okay? So hopefully you guys enjoy this video today. I'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace out, dudes. Love you guys.